Our next speaker is Craig Kelly, Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Western Hemisphere Affairs of the United States. Craig, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, Víctor. Gracias por la invitación a participar en esta conversación tan importante para la región. Mr. Green and Mr. Vilches and our colleague from the Andean community have talked about the situation on the ground in a very effective way about how peace building and civil society must come together to create greater conditions for peace. As Ambassador Ramdin said before we came into the room, a lot of these are issues we must address at the base, at the local communities in our societies before they become security problems. And I think that that's a very sound approach. What I'd like to do, rather than try to add to the insights that have already been shared regarding the situation on the ground in our region, is talk a little bit about how governments, and in particular the U.S. government, is trying to take advantage of the growing participation of multilateral institutions and civil society as we address these issues. In my career as a diplomat, I have seen the nature of diplomacy change remarkably. The notion that diplomacy somehow involves secret communications between foreign ministries is, while still true, has become a much smaller percentage, a much smaller part of what we as diplomats do day in and day out. Because not only are we dealing with relations between and among foreign ministries, we're also dealing with many, many other different agencies of government, or what is now commonly called the whole of government approaches to problems in our societies and in our region. But that as we do so, we're trying to connect our bilateral diplomacy and our whole of government approach to the multilateral organizations that exist, so that one of our great opportunities and challenges is getting better at matching up the bilateral with the multilateral. But it goes even beyond that, because we are finding that we are engaging more and more in what we might even call plurilateral organizations which are set up sometimes in an ad hoc way to address particular challenges or opportunities. And it's very appropriate to raise this here at the Organization of American States, because there are some of these which exist, which are being promoted by the Organization of American States. And I just mentioned a few. One is the Inter-American Social Protection Network, which had a very, very interesting launch in New York several weeks ago in the margins of the UN General Assembly, which is a program to try to share best practices among societies on addressing social safety net issues. Another one is the Economic and Climate Partnership of the Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas, which involves every country in the region, with strong support from OAS, from IDB, and other organizations. And then finally, we have the Pathways to Prosperity in the Americas, an initiative to join together the free countries that have free trade agreements among themselves, to implement those agreements in a more effective way to spread the benefits to sectors of our society which up to this point have not benefited adequately from economic integration and free trade. From our perspective, it is important to connect these broader issues of social inclusion, the energy and climate, social safety nets, to the question of peace building, because, as we know, inclusive prosperity, more effective and clean exploitation of energy, search for renewable forms of energy, more effective social safety nets, these all have a relationship to peace and stability in our societies and helping to create the conditions for peace. And therefore, we are trying very hard to use the expression of Mr. Green, a variable geometry approach to these issues in the way we do diplomacy in the region. And the OAS has been a very strong partner for us. The OAS has a strong record. If you look at the many things the OAS has done, whether it's Belize, Guatemala, whether it's the Colombia demobilization program, the OAS mission to support the peace process in Colombia, drawing on best practices from the experiences in Central America, the coordination with the United Nations Peace-Building Commission from anywhere from Guinea-Bissau to El Salvador to Haiti, to links between the OAS and the African Union. The Organization of American States has a hugely important role to play as we try to connect all these dots and make a more efficient synergy between creating the sort of social and more inclusive prosperity on the ground with efforts to create more peaceful and stable societies. Now, the role of civil society is absolutely vital. The United States as a country is very proud of the role that civil society plays in the formation of our own government's policies. Everybody likes to quote Alexis de Tocqueville's observations about the United States in the mid-19th century and the vitality of civil society organizations, at times almost chaotic vibrancy of these organizations, but the strong influence they had on the formation of policy at several different levels in the United States. And this is something which has very much marked our culture and made us very, very open to coordinating with civil society. In fact, within our own diplomatic corps, the average entry age of a U.S. diplomat, in other words, the average age upon entry into the diplomatic corps in the United States is 31, which is higher than most countries. That means that most of our diplomats have worked in non-governmental organizations of some kind, whether it's the private sector, whether it's teaching, lawyers, the military. They bring in a wealth of experience outside of the government, which again makes us particularly open to exploring cooperation with civil society. And therefore, as we look at how we take advantage of our links with the OAS, with the United Nations, with the sub-regional organizations in the Caribbean and in Central America and the Andean countries, I think that our challenge is to figure out more regularized ways to match up what governments do, what sub-regional organizations do, and what civil society can accomplish. And I'd like to return a moment to a couple of the examples that I just gave. For instance, Pathways to Prosperity in the Americas. This initiative, which was launched a little over a year ago, and as I mentioned, is designed to bring together all the countries that have free trade agreements among themselves, but with the express purpose of making the agreements work more effectively for more people, and recognition that economic integration, while very, very important, still has left some people out of the equation, and these people must be included more effectively. Well, in order to pursue this under the initiative, this is far more than governments working with governments. We are reaching out to civil society, labor unions, small farmers, women's groups, and others to draw them into more effectively to this network. In fact, one of the first concrete initiatives that was accomplished under the Pathways to Prosperity about a month ago here in Washington, we set up a network of women entrepreneurs from throughout the Americas, and in a 4-day conference here in Washington, we were able to set up a permanent network linking together mentors and mentees among women entrepreneurs from all the countries that participate in the Pathways Initiative. So this is one way where I think that we can use this variable geometry, this sort of multi-layered chess, to link governments, multilateral organizations, and civil society. I think the challenge is that since there are so many moving parts, how do we do this in the most effective way possible? How do we sort of keep track of what everybody is doing without trying to impose some sort of a stultifying mechanism on top of it that would squelch innovation? So that's as we move forward, Secretary Clinton and our government has challenged us to take another look at how we do diplomacy in this more variable geometry world, and as we do so, how we work with the OAS and civil society will be a very, very important part of that equation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Craig.